All right, hello everyone, and welcome to Theory Crafting Thursday. This is everyone's favorite RuneScape podcast. I'm excited to be here. Proud, hello.
Hey, new patch for what did you say? What game was it? New patch for RuneScape.
Yep, I'm excited to talk about being a member and those pesky yellow hats and farming whatever. I don't know. This joke's going too far.
Yes.
My years of middle school RuneScape are long gone. But today, instead of RuneScape, actually, we're gonna have a special podcast where we talk about a game called Dota 2. Maybe foreign to some folks, but not to others.
Are we skipping one?
Yeah, we are skipping one.
Okay.
One's pretty bad. It has the gambler though, if you play on old patches, which makes it even worse.
This is
actually.
Great. I love this segment we're doing right now.
Yeah, this is my favorite segment. Let's go to a different segment. How about that?
Okay.
How has Dota been treating you, kind sir, Proud, specifically post Battle Pass Dota?
Well, it's been treating me okay, but I haven't been treating it well. I've just been playing like super shitty. I don't know what happened. I've been going through some kind of weird stuff, and I think it's probably bleeding into my Dota a lot. I'm just playing super absent-mindedly and very terribly. Still at like a 50% win rate, but the wins just feel awful because I don't deserve them. So that's been Dota for me. This new battle pass stuff. This is the first time I've actually bought one of these battle passes, which isn't. I mean, it's not saying much. There's been like 2, I guess, now total. But I'm pretty into it. But this international matchmaking stuff, I don't know, man. It's not. It's kind of nice to have like something that matters, kind of similar to ranked, that I don't take seriously, because like I'm playing like shit right now. So it's cool that I can queue up to something that like has an MMR attached to it, but doesn't actually matter.
I agree completely. And so for anybody who has not played with the Battle Pass yet, basically, among other things about like the many glorious hats, etc., now if you pay your $10, you can access what's called international matchmaking. I think it's called international
ranked.
Yeah, and what it is it's just like a separate bracket for ranked, and you could play your 10 games to calibrate just like you do for normal ranked, but it's separate. And this just came out a few days ago, so most people have not have either just gotten their calibration and not like continued farther, or have not yet calibrated. I actually have been playing it kind of like you. I've been training it like unranked, and I don't know. I imagine this is different person to person, and I don't know how it's been for you, but I've run into a lot of different people in international ranked queue with 2 very different mentalities mostly. A lot of people, and I imagine some of our fellow hosts are doing it this way, are treating it like a proper recalibration. And especially in some of the lower MMR brackets where this is like you can actually recalibrate yourself. We'll get into it later, but being in like mid 4K or high 4K is weird because you can't actually recalibrate properly. But a lot of people are treating it like that, and that's all well and good. You know, they're excited to get their true MMR, quote unquote, which inevitably is like 100 or 250 points away, give or take. But then there's also the people like us that just like, I'm treating it like unranked. Like this is just unranked for me now because like I don't care.
It's definitely like, so the first game I queued up, the average MMR was like 4,100. And since this is going off my like your hidden MMR, aka your unranked MMR, like what your MMR would be if you never played a ranked game, you know, the hidden one, that's what it is. And I don't do that. I don't really play anything besides ranked. So this is like basically my MMR when I shit around with friends like a year ago. So it's not really relevant to anything. Like I'm playing at like 4,200 and just like random shit happens. And some people in my team are like at the same hidden MMR, but also 6K. So it's pretty silly. And then the fact that you can queue with your party, and I don't think it has a separate MMR for that because I was in a game with like a 3-stack and then my team was just all solo players. So I don't know. Treating this thing super seriously seems like a disaster waiting to happen, or if you're partied up, it seems super abusable.
Yeah, so actually on that point, the first game I played of this, I've only played solo. I've not actually played any party calibration games, but the first game I played, it was on the Dire team, it was myself playing solo queue, another person playing solo queue, a 3-stack, and then the other team was a 5-stack. And and they just completely stomped us. It was like one of the like most stompy games I've ever played. And not only that, the average MMR for the 5-stack team was like 5,400 average, and the average MMR for our team was like 4,600. So there was like a 900 point difference.
Yeah.
And I have screenshots to prove that too. I'm not like,
I'm
making crazy. I made a Reddit post and everything. It's official. But
I'm like
yeah,
100% sure that that was like a 2 point game, but since you hadn't calibrated it yet, it looks the same as every other game you lost. So like that looks super shitty. And like one of your calibration games was like just a fucking straight up no way to win. But at the same time, it was probably like a 0 point loss.
yeah.
But still, it's kind of silly.
It was just like it's not like entertaining or fun.
Yeah,
Like even if it was unranked, I'd be pissed if it was like, oh, a 5 stack against 2 solos and a 3 stack. That's silly.
yeah.
Um,
I'm
that
sure
being
those
said,
guys like they must have had to wait like a year for that game if that was the best match they could find.
yeah, I don't know what that was because like my queue popped like pretty quickly too, and it was just weird. And assuming like I don't know because that also hasn't happened to me since then. So maybe it was just like a fluke because that was like the first day it came out.
Yeah.
So maybe they're like their what's the word, algorithm was just off and like they were just making weird stacks.
I mean, how many 5 stacks do you think are queuing up for international ranked, right? Like they had to
Probably a
be
lot.
scraping to find any. I disagree strongly, but anyway.
I don't know. I imagine a lot of people are interested in recalibrating or just having like a unranked but still kind of ranked queue, if that makes sense. Kind of like you and I are treating it apparently.
Yeah.
I've actually done my 10 solo calibration games. I finished it on stream today, which was fun, despite, as I'm sure everybody notices, I'm sick. But we had a good time playing some ranked.
As an unhealthy, not like very cool.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of both. Who knows? Actually, I've been
You
playing really
know?
badly because I've been like heavily medicated, so I've been making some bad plays. But I ended up calibrating at 4275, which is 500 points lower than my regular solo. But the important context, and this is not just like to toot my own horn or like as an excuse, but the way calibration works for anybody that's not aware, there is like a max calibration, and some people say it's 4,500, other people say it's 5K. I've heard it both ways. I know it's changed. I know like back in the day you could calibrate above 5K even, like when it was like first out.
Yeah, just
Um,
spam Zeus and shit.
exactly, yeah. But now I'm sure it's somewhere in that range of like 45 to 5K. Like maybe 5K is the max, but like it's somewhere in that range. So like if my solo is 4753, which it is, it's like almost impossible for me to calibrate at my solo, much less higher. So that's kind of why I've been treating it like unranked. Like I just kind of don't care that much.
Yeah, it's practice queue.
Yeah, basically, and it's nice because there's no Smurfs, or at least less. That's always been my problem with unranked. Is every time I queue ranked, it's just like 5 Smurfs that just like don't care, or they're spamming some hero, or they're abandoning. Like it's just frustrating. So I've been enjoying it, but again, it is just like unranked for me. And if you're treating it like a recalibration, kudos to you. Good luck, Godspeed, etc., etc. But it's interesting. I like the idea. Like even right now, the global MMR leaderboard, the top guy is 5,090, and like I'm sure that guy's like 6K at least solo.
Yeah.
And like I had a game that averaged, I think the average MMR for each team was like 3,900 something, and each team had two 6K players on it and multiple 5Ks. So take that with a grain of salt. Wagamama, he calibrated today. He's like 7K at least, and he calibrated at 4,300. So
Nice.
it's not an ideal system, and it's also apparently this is confirmed. It's not confirmed by me, so if I'm wrong, I apologize. But
Probably wrong.
the the queue pools for international ranked and ranked, like regular ranked, are together. So it's not splitting the player base, so that's why queues aren't taking forever.
Okay.
But that also means that like I can't play regular solo ranked because like I'm gonna have a bunch of 6K players and like 5K players, etc. in my
Yeah.
4,700 games.
Yeah,
So
that's true. That would be kind of unfortunate.
so I'm just not playing solo ranked for like at least another few weeks, at
Yeah,
least if at all. Like that's just stupid.
my
So
I mean if that is the case, that would be kind of questionable. But I don't know. The way I'm treating it, I wouldn't quite say I'm treating it as unranked, but just like a ranked to play when I'm unsure about my play. Kind of like,
yeah,
the first game of the day you play, you're always gonna play bad. Like I would play that in international ranked. And like if it just so happens that like my weird questionable games are going well, then I can switch my MMR over to the international one at the end. Or, and so on and so forth. It's for practice and fucking doing random shit. Like I like having matches that like can count for something potentially, and have people like trying in them more than in unranked, like probably less than ranked ends up being kind of like the practice league for me.
Hmm.
But more than unranked. So it's a queue to play that has some numbers attached to it. You can track shit, uh, and it doesn't like matter too much. Where if you lose 10 games, you're gonna like cry for the next 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I like it overall. I definitely like. There's a lot of dust that is gonna need to settle before it like actually is super legit. But for now, like while it's new, I definitely like it.
Yeah, so I think we're definitely in agreement there. And I think we may be the exception. I think a lot of people are treating this like a proper recalibration. I don't know. What do you think about like the precedent that form, even if this is just a one-time thing, compared to doing the classic, quote unquote, classic recalibration where you would like make a Smurf and get it to level 50,
Yeah.
and then like, do you think this is a good thing or?
I definitely do. I think kind of the sentiment behind recalibration that a lot of people have is very disingenuous to how it actually is. Like recalibration, it's not like like the 10 games. It's not like it starts you at like a clean slate, and then the 10 games you play are like fucking gonna decide like a 1,000 MMR bracket each.
Yeah.
Your shit is already kind of set. It's just going off your hidden MMR. So like if you calibrated at 1K and you're like, holy shit, I am not playing 1K ranked ever. I'm just gonna play with my friends repeatedly. Like I have a couple friends who have done that. They calibrated low, don't really give a shit, and just play with friends. But they've like actually gotten good. But they haven't been playing solo ranked. So now they kind of have the option to like make some use out of the fact that they wanted to stay away from ranked for a while, despite like an initial foray into it. And I think that makes sense. Like if you get calibrated originally, and then you don't play for a while, and then you like, or rather, you don't play solo ranked, but play a lot of unranked, and you get like pretty good, you shouldn't have to like reslog through all that MMR you kind of just did like over the last year just because the number wasn't public in those matches.
Yeah, I agree completely. I think this mode definitely is best for those people that do not play ranked. And like using myself as an example, I never played ranked. I used to just play with friends, and I probably had like at least a couple thousand, or maybe not a couple thousand, but at least 1,000 games just exclusively in unranked before I even went into ranked. And when I did calibrate, I calibrated at like, I don't remember, like 36 or 3,700. So I didn't have to slog through like that phase when I was really bad at Dota. Like I was bad at Dota in unranked, and then I gradually worked my way up. So I think this is perfect for those kinds of people that maybe they took my approach, but they took it after having already like established a ranked MMR. So I think it's definitely good
Yeah.
for them. Also, it'll silence many people, and I'm sure there are some listening that are all like, the only reason I'm not climbing is because people are so bad in 2K or in 3K or in 4K or whatever. And so then those people, they can get their chance to recalibrate. And, I'm not trying to be derisive or mean, although it may sound like it, but more than likely they're going to calibrate within 100, maybe 250 MMR of themselves. So we'll see. It'll be
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, I think it's good overall. For the most part, when people think that they're recalibrating, yeah, you're right. It's normally your hidden MMR is very rarely that far away from your actual MMR, unless you haven't played ranked at all and you're just playing a shit ton of unranked, which isn't true for most people who actually care about their MMR that much. So it's not really going to do too much unless you're one of those extreme cases, which I think is totally fair.
Yeah, and then the other thing to bring up, and I guess this is kind of like just to
I'm ready.
dissuade or explain the MMR system a little better to people. Like you said, which is very valuable, and a lot of people don't know this.
I
Your
don't. I
actual
know it.
your 10 calibration games are not like the be all end all, like you said, of your MMR. Each one counts for like maybe 100 points each, give or take, and
At most, like,
yeah, at most. Party is a little different from what I understand. Party MMR, the calibration is a bit more stilted, and it's based off of who you're party with. But anyway, solo MMR, those calibration games are less important than like your 100 plus games of unranked beforehand. So don't be too concerned about your games, and it's not based off win loss. A win loss is actually not like at all an important metric. Like for instance, in my calibration games in this time, I went 7-3, and within all my wins, like my MMR barely fluctuated like 50 points, and even though loss, it was the same. Like it's all based on performance. Also, you're not penalized for supporting, which is the common misconception I most want to address. It's not like a system that's like, oh man, I got forced to support, so like my hero damage is low, therefore I have bad calibration. That is not how that works. You're gonna be fine. Play whatever role you want. Just like believe in yourself, and you'll do great calibration wise. I promise.
Yeah, it kind of used to be the deal with the hero damage and all that. Like you were really
Yeah,
advantaged if you played like Zeus, but that's gone. Like just play Dota. Like calm down.
yeah. And then the opposite happened. For a while, supporting was the way to calibrate high. Like you could abuse hero healing,
Oh
but
yeah,
as far as the
like
public is
stun
aware,
duration and shit. Yeah.
exactly. As far as the public is aware, there's no like current way to game the system, and there's MMR caps, and like don't worry about it too much. Just have fun. Enjoy the battle pass. That's
Yeah,
that's the
dude, I
goal.
got the fucking Juggernaut cat. I'm so happy. That's all I
Nice.
wanted. That's all I wanted. I don't even want the gold one. It looks like shit. I just want my beautiful little cat.
Yeah, I've been very happy with the cosmetics. Of course, we may take a more theoretical and intensive approach than some, but at the end of the day, Dota's all about the hats, right? Especially for me.
Exactly.
I'm a well-known hats collector. On Tryhard Tuesday this week, they alluded to someone that they may have known that immediately had a level 127 battle pass. That person was me, which in the grand scheme of things is not that high, but
Yeah,
I knew I was going to spend money eventually, so I figured I'd just spend it all
sure.
um, right off the bat. So I'm level 132 right now, and I'll probably get to 225 once they release the Legion item.
So
And
do you have the broken ass map?
it's not that bad, honestly.
Okay.
I actually
I
okay.
mean,
So
it's
here's my
Dota,
argument.
dude.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you're disagreeing with me or not, but I'm gonna assume you're agreeing with me. At the end of the day, if you're a good player, you knew those juke paths already, and it's not that big a deal.
No. Did you see that fucking little Sing Sing video about with
I
him on
didn't. I
Coddle?
don't
Like
like.
guess
I don't
it's
like
it's
Sing
not
Sing that much,
it's
but
not about whether or not you like Sing Sing, but
yeah,
there was a dude who was in the trees and he like it was like a Slark and he leapt somewhere and he could just see the openings in the trees, like the possible places that Slark could end up that it would put him. And it was
yeah.
just so obvious. And he's like, okay, go, he's right there. But I mean, you can't tell where that like how to say like you can kind of like where the entrances and exits are in the bushes and that sort of thing, but like if I show you like a random pile of trees like that Tinker would like blink to, you don't know where the gaps that you can't path through in those little trees are. Like that's some fucking high level knowledge if you're totally aware where the gaps in a huge thicket that you can't even walk into are.
Uh, I like on one level, like yes, it is like a very minimal advantage, but I feel like a good amount of people already have that knowledge, or at least the ability to approximate. Like I'm sure like I could take like the regular map and just like draw on it like the approximate areas, like if I'm coddle blasting or whatever. I agree that it should be like toned down a little, but I feel like people are making a bit too big of a deal of it. Also, it's super bright and it actually kind of hurts my eyes, this new
Oh
map.
yeah, no, all these fucking I don't know any of like the terrain changes or the weather effects or whatever. Every time I put them on, I'm like, what the fuck? Like this is bad. Can I just play Dota? Like, I would
Yeah, we're
like it
gonna
to
turn into
rain.
Scrunk.
Yeah, like I mean, I got the rain effect. I got the wind, like the snow effect. I'm so into that. I fucking love rain, but it doesn't look. It looks different and it hurts. And like there's fucking white dots everywhere. It's like raining
Yep.
fucking cocaine on Lone Druid. Like I don't want that. I just want to see the map.
Yeah, I care more about hero hats, I'll put it that way. It
I
like
agree.
the new map is cool, but I'm sure I'll turn it off in like a few weeks after like kind of like with new announcers and stuff. So that's that. We got to touch on hats, especially me.
Yeah,
I'm
I'll
mostly the
just say
courier collector, but
my win rate with HUDs 0%. Anytime I put a HUD on, I just fucking freak out and I lose.
oh, see, I have one HUD that I've used for like years. I
Well, yeah,
use the
that'll work.
golden bullion or golden doubloon HUD. I used to use the EG HUD, but
Okay.
some of the HUDs are pretty like pay to lose. Although the HUD with the battle pass is really nice. It's the
It's
Legion Commander, like it's all like red. It's very Roman.
okay.
Um, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean there are ones I
Also,
like. It's just I don't know when you change something I'm so used to. That's all I can focus on.
Also, HUDs are a great way to farm gems if you're like a dirty cheater. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm just pointing out. If you want to farm some godlike streaks, just throw it in a gem. and then take the gem out of your HUD and put it into a hero, and people will be like,
Holy
"Yo, that
shit!
guy has
This
like
is
200 godlike
Theorycraft.
streaks." Yeah, dude, I could talk about hat theory crafting
Holy
for
shit! No,
like
that's
5 or 10
impressive.
minutes.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, it's kind of like the other cheat is just to buy them off the market and then not reset them. But I
Oh,
wouldn't do either of those things. I love gems. I love stat tracking.
okay. I'm glad to
Anyway,
know that about you. Thank you.
yep. So that's the battle pass. I don't think I have anything else to talk about it. It's
And
interesting.
gives a shit.
I'm sure we'll be talking about it more in the future weeks if it has some cataclysmic effect on our ranked play, because I'm already concerned. Like,
Quests.
yeah, quests are pretty dumb, but I mean, yeah, quests suck. Although the quests for this battle pass are a bit more like you could just do them. They're less specific, or at least like the earlier ones. So they've been less game ruining, but still pretty game ruining. Um, like I had a guy that jungled Weaver because he's like, yeah, it's for a quest, and it was an international rank, so he was like, yeah, I don't care, because he was 5400 and he was like in a season
Yeah.
in an average MMR like 4100 game.
Fucking quest, man.
Yeah, almost every game I've had of international MMR has been a stomp, one way or the other.
Hey, this one support,
Yeah.
he fucking ganked the shit out of like 100 people so he could get his arcane boots as quickly as possible. And I was like, thank you, man. You did the correct thing.
Yeah, I suppose there's that. Some people, I guess they'll play better, or who knows? Or
He
I mean,
needs those points, man.
the other thing people don't get is you have to win to accomplish your thing. So like this idiot that jungled Weaver, like he just lost at the end, so he just wasted like an hour of his time to do this stupid Weaver earn quest or whatever. So whatever. That's our tilting about Battle Pass, enjoying the Battle Pass, etc. But we've got a treat, I suppose. It's not really a treat because we do it every week, except for last week because we didn't have an episode. But that is extenuating circumstances, and
This is a
this
great
week,
conversation.
yep, we're gonna talk about for our segment, which is still unnamed. We really do need a name for this segment. We're gonna talk about
Fuck off.
junglers. More specifically, we're talking about junglers in solo queue, aka, or well, yeah, junglers that ruin your games versus junglers that win your games. And you are the jungling aficionado.
Am I?
Well, you and Roland, but I imagine you have better success.
I guess I
Um,
don't jungle, man. I get forced to jungle. That's
yeah, well,
I'll
that's
say that.
because I never get forced to. I like legitimately don't think I've jungled in a ranked game in my entire life because I like to
Yeah.
play support and I don't like. I hate. I actually like it when I have junglers on my team that know how to jungle. I'll put it that way because I'm like a player that's perfectly content playing a 6 role. And my philosophy with solo queue is just to put people in their most comfortable position. So if you're only comfortable playing cores, I'm not going to force you to support because I want to mid or I want to carry or whatever, right? So
Yeah, I
that's
will.
why I'm fine like 6 slots supporting even with like a 4 slot hero and letting you do your stupid jungle thing and
Right.
get your 8-minute blink dagger on Legion and then feed away a bunch of dual damage.
Yeah.
Anyway, talk about jungling. I'm interested. Maybe I'll start jungling after you wax poetic.
Oh damn. Okay, so I have to like defend this shit. Okay, well, so there's like two kinds of jungling. I think the best hero to like kind of exemplify the difference between like helpful jungling and just fucking stupid idiot piece of shit, goddamn trash can, garbage, trash, awful jungling is Doombringer. Like he exemplifies all of it. If you look at like what was it? Was it Shanghai? Yeah, it was Shanghai that secret one. Like if you look at the difference between like a puppy jungling Doom and that style, or a Chinese Doom or whatever region you want to say, popularized it or got it to be a big deal, versus like your pub Doom who just like starts out with like stout quelling and fucking just farms all day, versus a Doom that has like a very clear goal in mind. Gets like eats one camp and then gets like level 2 very quickly and then goes and puts out pressure on a lane and then goes back to the jungle and then does something else, eats another camp and then puts pressure in another lane or takes over lane for someone else while they go heal, or your mid's kind of go back to base, so your Doom takes over mid for a little bit, that sort of thing. There's like there's a lot you can do as a jungler to make the game a lot better outside of the whole like just jungling part on a bunch of heroes. And it's not just Doom, of course. It's like Enchantress, you go like an Enchantress jungler is very different from a Legion Commander jungler. But that's not to say having a core jungler is like objectively shitty. And my best example of that is obviously I play a shit ton of Lone Druid, if you know anything about me. And it is not uncommon for me to pick Lone Druid and then say I can go mid, safe, or off lane and then get all three stolen. And then I jungle. And then sometimes there's a bounty hunter and it sucks. But when there's not a bounty hunter, you can do a lot of shit as Lone Druid. You get entangle and you're jungling, which is pretty close to mid lane, and you're really fast. So if you get entangle at a pretty good timing, you'll get it before the enemy mid is 6. And that's a really good timing for you and your mid to go gank somewhere. Or you can pop out of the jungle behind their offlaner and kill them, or like jungle the offlaner's camp. You can do a lot of shit if you really, really want to try. Yeah, Lone Druid's great, man. I don't know if I've ever told you that, but yeah. So yeah, like my standard thing, like when I play Lone Druid, I know my timings. I let my team know. I say, okay, at 420, I'm gonna blaze out of the jungle and I'm gonna entangle mid with an orb of venom. Like, be ready for that. And they'll say, okay, and then I'll fucking do it, and then we get a kill. You can smoke for it too. Like, as a jungler, once you get your shit together, go fucking smoke, man. Just buy one. Like, no, it's fucking 4 minutes into the game. Like, buy a smoke. It's in stock. Just do it. Yeah, man. Jungling is honestly really good when you get it done right. Like the number of games that I've lost to the fucking like life stealer doing ancients shit, and then he just like hit 6, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, our additional support didn't win the game outright, and now they have a 4th core. Fuck. Like that's the game. That can be the game.
Yeah, so I mean, I think you definitely got into, especially at that last part about the Nakes, and that's an anecdote that I think, unfortunately, we don't see anymore, but we see it with other heroes. It's the classic,
well, now
like
it's
an
just
Ursa.
Nakes himself. He doesn't even need to get into a creep. He's already
he has an armlet,
terrifying.
which is like better than a black dragon.
Right.
But it definitely, the difference is in solo queue. Generally, you can get away with jungling. There's the rare exception where like, they have a really aggressive offlaner that like is just really like attentive and bullies you, or if they have like a bounty hunter or Ricky who's just chasing you around and being annoying. And some junglers, even, they don't even care about the Ricky. They could just fight him off, like Legion Commander. If you're like at least level 3, you just punch him and he can't do anything.
Yeah, I mean, it's sap experience, but I mean,
Yeah.
at the same time, you're wasting his time. He's wasting your time. You're kind of splitting even.
Yeah. And that's really the key, right? Is in solo queue, you can really get away with jungling because of the uncoordination, and because your team or the enemy team isn't just gonna be like, hey, like in a coordinated 5-stack game, we just be like, hey, they're running a jungle beastmaster. Let's just rotate and we'll smoke into their jungle and we'll kill him over and over again, and then he's worthless. Whereas in a unranked game, their team's gonna be speaking 3 different languages. Their mid's gonna be flaming somebody already, of course, and like they're not gonna be able to coordinate and say like, hey, let's go take the stacks in the jungle, or hey, let's go kill the jungler, etc., etc. So
Even
you could definitely get away with it.
Even in a structured game, though, like, I mean, Beastmaster Jungle, like, just to use that hero as an example, like, that's top tier right now, and
Yeah.
like people can do that. But then my 4-role Beastmaster is taking the brunt of your support rotations, and not my mid, and not my offlaner, and so like it generates so much space for your team. Like I've played, Lone Druid Jungle, and sometimes at level 2, if I feel like the enemy's going to be aggressive, I might level up my roar, but normally I just get it at 4. But yeah, like if people rotate on me, like my bear is kind of scouting while it's killing shit, and then I see supports rotating and I walk away, and I like, okay, their supports are here. My offlaner has, my offlane Tidehunter can now beat the shit out of their Spectre for like 40 seconds. And like it helps a lot. Even if you're jungling, it can be really difficult to actually punish a jungler. Like there've been a lot of times, even like when we play with our team, we look at a comp, we're like, wow, they're so fucking greedy. Let's punish them. And then you kind of do, but at the end of the day, it may not fucking matter. Like they may still just like, yeah, their life stealer isn't quite as farmed as a completely free farming life stealer, or their Sand King like didn't get totally optimal farm. But like if they have maybe like an aggressive duel and they can win the 1v1 in their safe lane against your offlaner really well, and you have a jungler, like that can be obscenely hard to punish.
Yeah, it's definitely, especially in current patch. Whereas in some previous patches, it hasn't, like, the amount of farm you that's on the map. It isn't conducive to having 4 cores. In the current patch, like, you get so much from so many different places that in a lot of games you can get away with dividing your farm and having 4 like 80% farmed cores compared to 300% farmed cores, which is a huge advantage. And it's kind of like the classic, it's not really an anecdote because it's not specific. The classic thing I think we've all lost to is, you're playing a pub game and you see their draft and they drafted 5 carries and your team has like a legitimate comp, but then, you lose one fight because, you dive or you do something stupid. And then
Yeah.
suddenly the other team, all their 5 carries have one item and you can't possibly focus and kill all of them. So eventually you just lose all these fights because there's just too many targets.
Yeah.
That's what happens in a lot of these 4 core lineups where, they have a 4 slot Legion commander that, she has some dual damage, she's a blade mail, whatever. And yeah, sure, you can deal with her and she's not as consequential as her carry, but she's still like a problem that needs to be addressed. Whereas if they just had some like Dazzle, it'd be, or maybe Dazzle's a bad example because Dazzle does a lot, but if they had some underformed support, like maybe a
Lich.
Dazzle, then you could, yeah, Lich, then like they would just kill your support and like, who cares about your support? Whereas Legion Commander is being disruptive. So there are merits to jungling. I think it's a bad approach, and I have this approach sometimes. I'll be honest, where like you enter a game and you see you have a jungler, and like I swear I see this in chat every time I have a jungler on my team. GG, we lost. GG jungle, because it's just like people just hate junglers, and that's kind of myself included, and I've flamed Roland for it for like years, or what feels like years. But it is good sometimes, and juggling's a thing. So
I'd tell you about the like 5K lonely druid that I ran into 3 times in one night. That every single game he locks lone druid, mouses over jungle, says I jungle, and then he just builds like he does it so fucking efficiently. I just watched him and like downloaded the replay and just like chain watched it to figure out how he jungles, and it's so fucking good. He hits 6 at like, I don't know, like 450 or something ridiculous like that, and just gets all his items in line. Yeah, he goes like phase boot, old drum. He just gets like boot, Orb of Venom, Stout Shield, quelling on his bear, and then he just fucking like runs at you. But anyway, Lonely Druid stuff aside, every single game he does this, and he has an absurd win rate. Sometimes he has to offlane or something because they're like, no, Lone Druid, you offlane. We need support, you offlane. And he kind of has to. But most of the time, he's just fucking jungling, and he just does really fucking well. And that kind of broke me a little bit. I was like, can I be this guy? Can I be this like mid 5K dude who just spams jungle lone druid? Like, can that be my life? Because I hate offlaning. It's the fucking worst.
yeah, that's definitely another important distinction is junglers, like people that jungle versus people that play safe lane and like don't get safe lane and they rage and they're just like, I'm jungling Nakes or whatever. I'm jungling, so and so hero. Like I've run into, kind of like you. I haven't run into that guy specifically. Maybe someday, but I've run into a number of junglers that just like they jungle every game, and like one guy specifically, he was just jungling Legion Commander or safe laning Slark every single game. And well, like one game we already had safe lane, so he jungled Legion Commander, and it's very different when you see their efficiency and their jungle patterns and what trees they cut down and all these little things. Between somebody that like specifically is a jungle player or they plan to jungle and somebody that does not do that, like me. Like when I jungle, I'm like an idiot. Like I'm just like I don't even know. The picture of the guy who's trying to hold like all the lemons or the
Limes.
limes.
I can't
Yep.
hold. Yep, that's
Yep.
classic.
That's like me with the jungle. And it's just like there's just like gold hemorrhaging out of my arms, like I don't even know, like the proverbial limes. And it's embarrassing. I'm a terrible jungler.
There's
And
like one
yeah.
camp and you can barely not kill it, and then you look at the game timer and like 40 seconds went by, and then you get your like 6 at 8 minutes, and you're like, oh man, I fucked up.
Yeah, and you really know you're screwed when like the enemy jungler, or you're really happy when your jungler has like it down to a science where they're like dying to jungle camps on purpose for efficiency to get back and forth. Like, oh my god, that's
That's good.
that.
Yeah, dude,
Um,
this lone druid player, man, like he fucking had everything timed out. Like he would get a stout shield brought like before a mid would ever want a bottle, and it would get back like the second his mid needed the bottle. It was like, and he would like ship like 2 clarities out at these specific times so that he would hit like this item timing to make sure he wouldn't have to go back to base, and that clarity would come like right as he needed it. Like it was fucking beautiful. Like this, there was so much skill in the way he jungled that I was just, oh god. Like there can be a shit ton of skill to it. It's not like like a mid lane player's skill where the skill is like you fucking fighting this other dude. But there is like a great degree of knowledge that can go into like absurdly efficient jungling. And like this guy invented that shit all himself, I'm sure. Like I haven't seen anyone do it as well as him. And if he lifted it off someone, that dude must have been fucking insane.
Yeah, it's all very like it's very different approach. Like it's PvE Dota versus PvP, and it's very like
Yeah,
high efficiency, and it makes me think of like back when I was a hardcore WoW player, and like you were like min-maxing your rotations, you're min-maxing like, oh, I want mastery instead of crit, etc. Like
sure.
jungle rotations, it's like, all right, we're on this first camp. If it's centaurs, we do X, and if it's wildkins, we do Y, and if it's satyrs, we skip it and we go to the medium camp. We're like, all right, we got to cut down these trees. It's all
Yeah,
very
yeah, yeah.
cool, especially when you see like an Enigma jungler, and they're like, all right, we're gonna put our black hole thing, the
God, what was it even
minus
called?
percentage health. I don't
Right.
even know. Null zone, black
Midnight
void,
Pulse.
midnight pulse. We're gonna put that in a specific spot so that we can jungle this much efficiently. And like, yeah, it's fascinating. I like it's not for me, but like certain people love it. Like Roland is obviously the example for dot P. And like I've long told him like he could climb MR if he stopped jungling, but who knows? Maybe I'm wrong, and he's just jungle every
Yeah,
game.
man. Now you make me want to like just spam jungle. I should just spam jungle alone druid. I'm so sick of offlaning. I hate it so much.
Yeah, so maybe I mean obviously this week's episode, or rather this week's game, we're not jungling, but that would be an interesting idea. Maybe next week we could run a jungler.
A dual jungler. I'll jungle and you'll jungle.
Yeah, or like we do the complexity Winter Wyvern Axe jungle. I don't know if you watched that game,
I didn't, but
but
I heard about
I watched that game, and the whole time I had like my head in my hands, like I
it.
could
Did they
feel my
win?
pubs being
Was it
ruined.
cool?
Oh yeah, they won, they rolled the
Oh
entire game. They
yeah,
ran
that's
a
so cool.
Beastmaster off lane, or no, it was a Mirana off lane, I think, and they stacked Ancients, and then they double jungled with Wyvern Axe, and they safe laned like I don't know, some self sufficient and some mid that's self sufficient,
I'm just gonna pretend
and
it's a lone druid.
it was fascinating. Well, the thing about it was the axe. He had like a 5 or 6 minute Vanguard, and then right when he got the Vanguard, the Winter Wyvern and him rotated to take the Ancients, and he had like Vanguard Tranquils, Blink Dagger, Blade Mail at like 11 minutes or some garbage. Like he
Yeah,
just took an
something
Ancient
absurd.
stack and had 1,500 gold instantly. It was wild.
Yeah, that's. I
But
mean, yeah, that just shows like jungling is not inherently bad. Like there are a lot of ways in the top tier of competitive Dota. I mean, they may not have been the
yeah,
two best teams, but I mean, like people try fucking hard for that shit,
I mean,
and a dual jungler
EG1TI,
does well, right?
EG1TI, and they were the same team that ran Owie Coddle jungling. Like,
Yeah,
you can get away with some weird stuff. It's all about
if
coordination.
if you know what you're doing and you can prevent your team from rage quitting, juggling can be really really good. Oh, one point on this I wanted to say, especially with this passage, it's more relevant. Kind of what a good four core team is a team with four tanky cores. You want to have too much for them to deal with, and if they have heroes like Lion is a really good example. Lion and like Lich or something, if that's their support duo, like those heroes can only put out so much damage, and if you have more health than they have damage, like everything just goes away. Like if the Lion Finger of Death doesn't take out your most important core or your only important core, like if you devote Lich Chain Frost and Lion Finger of Death into stun and whatever, and you kill like my Jungle Legion commander, or you kill like I don't know, like a safe lane bristleback, but I still have like a jungle legion commander and like an off lane fucking stupid ass weaver, and then like a mid invoker.
Hmm.
Yeah, if you just have some tanky ass dudes, like just have a lot of health to survive if you're running four cores, and it goes really well. If you have four cores and it's like weaver and drow ranger and fucking like juggernaut and meepo, like I mean you can just die and it's
Yeah.
not too difficult to deal with. But if you have four tanky guys, like that's a world of difference.
Yeah, so, and this will be the last point, I swear, before we move on to our actual thing. But the other important thing to think about when you are jungling is doing it with like a proper comp and recognizing your team composition, like, hey, situation A being, all right, I cannot jungle in this team comp because we already have like an Alchemist mid and an AM safe lane and like some other greedy off laner like a Darkseer. Like, there's not enough farm on the map to support these three greedy cores and also a jungle Legion commander or whatever.
Yeah,
But then there's also games where the opposite is true, and that's like perfect. Like, all right, our support is some poverty support like a Dazzle or a Lion or a
Shadow
Rubik,
Demon or whatever that
Shadow Demon.
doesn't care about the jungle.
Exactly. Well, Shadow Demon kind of cares about the jungle
Well,
if you're
yeah,
good at Shadow Demon.
true.
But And then like if you have three cores where it's like, all right, our mid laner is like a puck or whatever, so he's gonna get his gold from fighting, and our safe laner is, X, Y, or Z. And that's when, you can get away with the jungle. So jungling is not just like, all right, I'm an efficient jungler, so I'm gonna do it every game. Because some games it's still gonna be bad. And the opposite is true also. Like if you see the enemy team and they're like, all right, they're running a drow strat and they're gonna push our lanes, and they're gonna rax us in 16 minutes. And that's not when you say like, all right, I'm gonna jungle Nakes and buy a Midas or whatever. And Midas is a
Yeah.
whole other tangent. Don't jungle and buy Midas. That's the classic Proud anecdote, right? Not
I
anecdote.
do
I don't
that
know
on
why I
Lone
keep
Druid
saying that.
actually, but
Oh,
yeah,
well, that's the difference, right?
you're
Because Lone
supposed to
Druid's
though.
bear is tanky anyway. Yeah,
Right. But yeah,
but
I mean that's kind of, I mean, the long and short of it is you jungle when you can get something out of it, and when you can get something out of it, it's normally like when you can contribute to the mid game to make up for you kind of sacrificing the early game. Like Lone
yeah,
Druid, you jungle, you come out, you're really fucking tanky, you take all their attention, you win a team fight because you got this tanky ass motherfucker who's like level 11 with 3k health at 12 minutes. And life stealer, pretty similar. We needed the ancient shit, big tanky magic immunity and shit. Legion Commander, big tanky blade mail, all that shit. So tanky junglers, pretty good for pubs, honestly.
hmm
But then don't go it if you have like an alchemist who needs to farm the jungle, or a shadow fiend needs to farm the jungle in between waves, or an anti mage who's gonna like suck up the jungle the second he gets a battle fury. So just do it intelligently. Don't pick up when you got an alchemist. Don't pick up when you got a fucking anti mage.
yep. All right. So our combo for this week that we are going to play, no junglers involved, unfortunately, considering our most recent talk, but we are going to be running PA Dazzle. And we've ran PA once before, back in like the really early days of Theorycrafting Thursday when Roland and I played PAAA, Phantom
Dark
Assassin,
times.
Ancient Apparition. Yeah, Dark Times. We actually, I believe we won that game, because that was back with the gimmicky thing. This combo is less gimmicky and more just strong. This is something I could easily see us drafting in the future because you love to play Phantom Assassin and I love
Yeah,
to play Dazzle, and both these heroes are now back. PA kind of is like kind of back and kind of not. People are still
yeah,
a little like, I know you're going to get into like the new theories on PA, but
yeah.
Dazzle is another hero where Dazzle was like super like top tier support like 2 patches ago. Then he got some nerfs. I don't even remember the exact nerfs. Then
It's
people
been back
just
and forth for
completely
so long.
disavowed. Yeah, completely disavowed Dazzle. And that was back when like Huskar was a threat. So like if they enemy team picked Dazzle, you just like had to respect ban the Huskar or like preemptively ban the Huskar, kind of like you
Sure.
ban like a Brood or whatever. And so yeah, that's that. Dazzle's a little more self-explanatory, and I'll get into that. But so as you can go off on your Phantom Assassin,
Okay.
I don't know, something or other.
Yeah, great. Good one. Okay. So Phantom Assassin, she's still really bad, but she can be really
I'm glad we
good.
got that out of the way.
Yeah, she sucks, let's be honest. But it's one of those things where like a lot of people, like, people love this fucking hero, man. They're fucking in love with Phantom Assassin. There's a reason she won the fucking Arcana vote.
Yep.
It's because like people just fucking love her, even though she's so fucking bad. But people just want to play her because she's so fucking fun, and that's why I play her. So like, even though she's so shit, I have half as many games of her as I do Lone Druid, and that's a shit ton of games. I got like, I don't know, 250 or something. Like I'm way better at this hero than almost any other carry. And not to say I won't perform better with another carry, but like as far as hero MMR or whatever the fuck that concept was, my second highest is probably PA. So to offset, she sucks in general, but a lot of people are good enough with her that it offsets it. And she's had some new shit happen to her recently. Her dagger is now less of like a nuke and more of an auto attack that scales really really well, honestly. And there's like a lot of ways you can play to her, or play with her to play to that. And one of those that got popular before that is now super relevant is the Slasher's Way Desolator PA, which now when applied to her dagger makes her dagger do obscene damage. So you get the minus armor on her dagger, which also does at max level 70% of her attack damage plus 75. And it's before it got the 15 damage buff, it was like once you hit 200 damage, it would do a little less than a straight auto attack. And at this point, now that it's got plus 15, it's probably about 215. So it does a shit ton of damage, especially early game. That extra 75 damage counts for way more than the 30% attack damage you're missing. Um, But yeah, it's pretty strong, and then you throw the Desolator on top of it, and it's some very respectable damage, and it lets you stay away from the fray, but also apply minus armor to whoever your team is trying to kill. So if you have like a Shadow Fiend mid and a PA, and you're just tossing daggers out, like that Shadow Fiend is gonna shit on everyone's head like very quickly. Yeah, so it's pretty sweet now. You can play a lot more of that back, like in the back line, tossing daggers out, and it's a lot more effective. So you don't have to risk the hero quite as much. Um, and there's been some kind of new builds going around as well. Like the change to Abyssal Blade really fucked Phantom Assassin in a lot of ways. That was outside of Battle Fury, that was the only plus damage item you would buy, except for maybe Deso. But that's like you don't really go Deso unless you're going Battle Fury because then you don't have any way to regen. But if you do, it's with the Vlads, and it's just don't go that fucking build, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's so like some people are trying Vanguard now. Like you go treads or phase. The guy I see it doing most successfully goes treads. I kind of feel weird about going PA without any move speed item, especially now that like drums is gone. S and Y, if you're going like Battle Fury Vanguard, you're not going to go S and Y afterwards. It's kind of I'm not entirely sure about it, but he likes to go treads. You can pick up a Windlace, which is probably what I'll do to kind of make up for that. You get like treads, Battle Fury, and then you just go with Vanguard and you fucking fight kids, and it seems really strong. I'm pretty into it.
Yeah, it
Anyway,
makes me think of the AM builds nowadays have gone back to the days of Vanguard AM. Like
yeah.
almost every AM I've seen, and I'm still kind of on the fence about the hero. AM is like one of he's my favorite carry other than Naga. Because you and I
You're
have very different carry
despicable,
pools.
honestly. Like, who likes playing with you?
No, not enemy
Only when you
teams.
play support.
I'm a big fan of Naga. Anyway, this is not the Naga episode. Someday that'll happen, but
God,
Proud will not be a party to that.
no,
We'll put
I'll
it that way.
fucking fake sick like you right
Um,
now.
I'm most certainly not fake, although
Okay,
I wish it was
whatever.
fake.
Just do the episode, dude.
And anyway, the God, now I completely lost my train of thought.
Awesome.
Something.
Vanguard
Oh yeah,
anti-mage.
Vanguard AM. People do that now. It's really good because
Yeah.
now you actually fight on AM, and people have even like Miracle. He won his 9K game with like this crazy build that was just fighting AM. And people used to kind of joke about fighting AM builds, but nowadays it's like an actual thing where you go like Vanguard, Manta, Vlad's, and like then you finish Abyssal and you go Butterfly, etc. So Vanguard is way better now, basically, and the
Oh
stats
yeah,
are really
it's a strong
efficient
item.
and like it has this stigma, especially like the Merlini stigma. Merlini it used to hate Vanguard. I don't know if he still does. That like it used to just be thought of as like the awful like redheaded
Yeah.
stepchild of items, but now
Same
it's
thing with
like
S and Y for so
legit.
long.
Yeah, and
It
then
was it,
SNY was like the most top tier item for like 2 patches,
yeah.
and it's still really good.
And
So
Vanguard hasn't not gotten buffed in like forever. Same with S and Y.
yeah, and like
Well, I
it
mean,
builds
S and
into
Y just started
things.
getting nerfed, but yeah, yeah. Now it goes into actual items that are important. Yeah, it's strong. The only reason that I wouldn't buy it on PA is I'm just like the advent of the minus armor going onto your dagger and buffing it that much is so powerful. But at the same time, there's a lot of appeal in being a tanky PA and not a phase Battle Fury Deso PA.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to balance it a little bit, but I'm definitely interested in trying the Vanguard stuff. Previously, I'd like exclusively been doing Battle Fury Deso. The tech on going Daedalus instead of Deso is honestly really good as well. It's a pretty similar damage increase. People don't exactly understand the way the diminishing returns on crit works that well when you have different instances of crit occurring. Um, Basically, anytime your crit happens, it ticks up the pseudo RNG of whatever crit didn't happen, and it'll always prioritize the bigger crit if both of them happen at the same time. So effectively, because of pseudo RNG, you're really not losing that much efficiency on your like when you go Daedalus. Some people calculate it out and it's like almost unnoticeable. Other people I've seen it's like you lose like 5% of the effectiveness of the crit, which isn't to say it goes from like 35 effectiveness to fucking 30 or anything. It's like 5% of the 30% that it was giving you. So it's really strong, honestly. The only thing is Deso helps PA push a lot, which she has huge issues with
Hmm.
because crit doesn't work on towers and neither does Phantom Strike. So she kind of just hits like a support with a bunch of plus damage on towers. But when you get Deso, she just fucking tears through them. So like Deso was super attractive on PA. I definitely still love that build, but there's definitely reasons to try out going the Daedalus. Especially in terms of just having really consistent damage from the Stifling Dagger, like almost always critting and always doing a lot of damage and not being like, okay, yeah, we lost that team fight because my 2 daggers that I tossed didn't crit. Um, So that's really good. The crit option is good. And then also this Vanguard stuff seems really strong. Abyssal is just such a good item on Phantom Assassin. And the Vanguard helps her fight early to kind of make up for the fact that she really has no girth to her at all. Yeah, there's just options to go on this hero.
Yeah.
What? Yeah, sorry, go on.
No, that's fine. I mean, I think like more or less the point is like options. You want to have options on any hero you're playing, whether it's a sport or a core, or whatever. The heroes without options are the heroes you're really concerned about, and they're very like specific. Like if you're playing Naga, you're almost certainly gonna have to buy Radiance, and like if you're playing against a Naga, you're gonna know that. Whereas if you're playing against a PA, she can vary her build depending on different like game states and different drafts, etc. So
Like
that's definitely an advantage.
They have like Skywrath CM. Like I probably won't go Vanguard because they have so much fucking magic damage. I'll just go the Deso and I'll just toss one dagger and Skywrath will go away. Or if they have like,
and
Dazzle.
Manta.
Yeah. Fucking Manta's so good, man.
Yeah.
God, Manta PA. I love that so much. It's so hard to fit into builds right now, but that's really good.
Some games you have to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
some games you do.
Like a CM Skywrath game, for instance, right?
Yeah.
You need a Manta.
Or just the BKB,
or a BKB
ASAP. Yeah. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, and Diffusal Manta is honestly really strong on PA as well. She's a really good carrier for the new Diffusal. Shit, man, this hero. The other big thing about the deal with Vanguard. So for skilling PA, the standard thing is you max dagger, 1 point in Phantom Strike, which is your blink strike, and then you max blur. And that kind of got popular for a while. That used to like not be the build, and then when like it started getting played mid, and RTZ was playing it a lot, it was just like in Envy, you're just like maxing blur. And like the kind of thought process on it makes some sense. You can see it basically anywhere. It's like fucking dime store intelligence. People get MKB later, so you want MK or you want blur early. But at the same time, people don't right click for that much early, and magic damage is the bigger deal. So it can kind of go either way. And if you're going Vanguard, you're not really worried about people's shitty ass auto attacks at 10 minutes. So the blur doesn't really help you that much, and you can just get Phantom Strike instead. And if you get like a 5-second cooldown on Phantom Strike, you're fucking in and out so quickly. And on PA, that's like really important to be able to get out of fights when you want, or to be able to just catch people like during fights. Like when Storm was popular, I was just spamming the shit out of PA, and he would like blink around and do all this crazy shit, and like a Lifestealer would be like terrified and very sad at all times. So I just like go with him and just fucking beat the shit out of him everywhere he jumped. It was great. I like that with Vanguard you can max Phantom Strike, or it's even probably better. Some people max them like evenly. Some people go 1 point or 2 points in blur, whatever you need to jungle sustainably, and then go max Phantom Strike. And I think I would go towards that direction, like maxing Phantom Strike, like the old build used to be. I think it's definitely very viable with the Vanguard build.
Right. So as far as Dazzle goes, Dazzle's a lot less dynamic.
Who gives a shit?
You build your basic support items, right? I mean, I play a ton of Dazzle, actually. I'm really happy this hero is back to being like a really good support. And Poison Touch, that's kind of like the big thing to talk about. And the big synergy between these two heroes is Poison Touch does physical damage, and also it got buffed recently. I also believe it got buffed last patch, I want to say. Whereas they've been nerfing Dazzle's other aspects that were kind of too strong, and they've been buffing Poison Touch because Puppy famously used to not level Poison Touch and used to get stats over it. And one of his, obviously I'm going to misquote this horribly, but basically one of the things he said was, I don't level Poison Touch because when I have levels in Poison Touch, it incites me to do dumb things like go into a fight. Whereas the smart thing to do on Dazzle is to stay outside of the fight and Shadow Wave and heal and wait and have Shallow Grave for people and use your armor debuff, etc. Whereas if you're using Poison Touch and you're walking into 600 range of the enemy carry to slow them, realistically, you're better off just doing nothing and staying back and not putting yourself in harm's way. So that was his kind of rationale, which is interesting.
They actually directly buffed that exact comment last patch by increasing the range from 600, 657, to up to 150 more at max length. So that's
exactly.
That's
Puppy God. But yes, that used to be his argument. So now that argument is not necessarily null and void. Sometimes it's still like, you got to know when to use Poison Touch and know when to like not need to do 100 damage. And it's definitely not an ability you like super level anymore. But in certain games, I'll max it second. If you like you're playing an aggressive game. But always, do your standard, you max your heals, right? The hero's real strength is shallow wave.
Shadow Grave and Shallow
God,
Shadow Wave and Shallow
shallow
Grave. Holy
grave. Yeah.
fuck, who named those?
Yeah, not me, that's for sure.
Mistakes. I'm gonna fight
And
someone.
yeah, so like some games you can be aggressive. That's kind of the nice thing about Dazzle is he is a support that allows you to be very aggressive. Of course, he lacks a stun, which is something you generally would look for in a support, and a
Well,
lot of the top tier supports we see
unless
have
you get
stuns, but
Poison Touch maxed and then wait like 4 seconds after
yeah.
casting it.
Yeah, unless we do that, and you only have to get level 3 poison touch for the stun. But even then,
No,
well, it used to be
you
level
get it at
3.
4. It's slow for 1 second, slow for one
Oh,
second,
okay.
slow for 1 second, and then once
Yep.
you have it at level 4, the stun comes at 3 seconds. No,
Yep.
at 2 seconds for 1 second.
But yeah, so we'll see. Depending on the state of the game, I mean, our kind of idea is to be aggressive, right? You talked about it earlier. You're gonna have that orb of venom. You're gonna be able to throw daggers, and you're gonna start that -3
Yeah,
armor, and then I'm gonna poison touch, and poison touch does physical damage, so that's amped by the negative armor that you're
yeah.
providing.
Not Over Venom, the new Blightstone.
Yeah, Blightstone, some
The
kind
other
of
thing
rose
that sounds
stone.
like that.
Um, so that's that. Any other ideas in the grand scheme of things for
There's just a lot of
before we
stuff.
hop into the game?
PA cares about minus armor so much. She's 100% physical damage now with the dagger change. So yeah, well, one of the main things is Dazzle gets poison touch level 1. PA buys a Blightstone obscenely early. I can be farming the wave while tossing daggers to help him harass out, and it's a hero like PA that traditionally has a very weak laning presence. But you can take a very simple and non-greedy dual lane or support like Dazzle, and then you can turn it into kind of a minus armor fiasco. And he's dropping poison touches that are doing way more than 112 damage, depending on who they're fighting, or actually doing 112 damage, which is really strong at level 1, and slowing and buffing Dazzle's right clicks. And if they ever get within kill range, PA can just hop over and Phantom Strike to someone and toss another dagger, keep them slowed up, and like actually just go for the kill there. So it turns PA from a pretty weak laner and Dazzle from a pretty passive hero into actually having some real kill potential, like at 5 minutes where you really wouldn't expect it.
Yeah, and like the nice other thing we've talked about, we've talked about it ad nauseum in our what's called patch note review, but minus armor strats are really good, and plus armor is also really good. Like armor is kind of like not I almost was gonna say the unsung hero, but people are kind of wising up to the fact that armor is super significant right now. But in
Yeah.
the current meta, in the current patch, and even like in the last couple of patches, you can't go wrong with having a ton of armor on your team and having a lot of minus armor on the other team. And that's why we're seeing a lot of, we've always kind of seen Dazzles do this with like the medallion, whatever. But even nowadays, we're seeing a lot of strats with like, we're going to get a bunch of armlets and we're going to run behind DK and we're going to have all this armor, etc. So Dazzle is very well suited to this kind of metagame of having a lot of minus armor on the enemy team to buff up your damage on the PA and buff up my poison touch damage, and having a lot of armor on our own team when you're going to push high ground or what have you. So there's a lot of very like that is a nice overarching theme to have a draft, right? If you're running like this is an armor draft or this is a minus armor draft. And
Yeah.
even if you're not running a draft that's specifically to accommodate a high armor or a low or a high minus armor draft, it's still like a nice bonus to have, right? Like
For
it can
sure.
compensate for heroes that have naturally low armor, or the opposite if you're talking about offensively, right? If you're running a core, like I don't know, like if we had an IO on our team, IO or a Tiny, these are two heroes that start with 0 armor, and if you're going to push at level 6 and they still have like between 1 and 3 armor, suddenly you have a Dazzle ult on them and they all have like 20 armor, and then like you're in the
Yeah,
clear.
they can
It's kind of
actually
like
take a tower hit and not just fucking fall over.
exactly. It's like the idea behind Warcry on Sven and why that's such a good ability. Like
Yeah.
you see it and you're like, right, who cares? They're just running fast. Whereas like the really important thing is they all have plus 25 armor and you do like 6 damage to them, and like they could dive your tower at 4 minutes because he has 2 points in Warcry.
Yeah, it's
And
strong
like
shit.
yeah. So that's about that for our combo. We're probably gonna hop into the game, right? Any more closing notes before we hop into the game?
Only thing I'm worried about going against is Dragon Knight.
Yeah, I'm generally worried about going against Dragon Knight. Although, if we do go against Dragon Knight, I will be leveling Poison Touch for sure. Second, like as my second max.
Why?
For armlet toggling.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Also
I was gonna be
kiting
like,
him.
Yeah, level your physical nuke for Dragon Knight. That makes a lot of sense. But yeah, Armlet makes more sense. Yeah.
Yeah, armlet toggling, it'll help against that. Also, he's a pretty kiteable hero. That's like generally your goal. Also, nowadays they always go either, or not always, but generally, we see armlet and then into blink or shadow blade, depending on the player and depending on
Yeah.
the state of the game. And the blink dagger obviously not very good against dot damage
Sure.
from a poison touch. So we're not seeing the early BKB Dragon Knights that we used to. That's kind of the idea. So that's one thing. I don't
Okay.
have a ton of concerns.
Let's
Obviously,
play
we don't
Dota.
want to play against Axe. Yeah, I like to
Yeah.
play Dota too, and that's kind of the approach I'm gonna have. We'll play
Yeah.
actual party queue, not international party queue.
Yeah. Or
So
should we? You don't know.
we could. I mean, I could care less.
We'll win.
We almost certainly would win. But yeah, so let's hop into the game, shall we? And
Okay.
we'll see you
Okay.
guys on the other side.
Let's do it. Okay.
All right, hello everyone. We are back. We just finished our game.
Hey.
It was some. Proud sounds excited, but he
Hey.
shouldn't be.
Oh no, yeah. I'm yeah. True to me saying earlier, I'm not just self-deprecating for fun. I'm actually like something's just wrong with the Dota that I'm playing now. And it showed. And it was slightly depressing, but we work through it. Sometimes you just lose Dota.
Yeah, it is what it is. It was not a game that went terribly well. I mean, it was a game that went relatively okay. I think. Okay, so let's talk about the overall game, and then
there
we'll
were
get into our actual
periods.
combo.
Okay. Fine. Okay, Jesus.
Okay,
Just
so
Christ.
the team comps. The enemy team had a safe lane Drow Ranger Silencer combo. They had a mid Shadow Fiend, and they had an off lane Faceless Void Lich. And obviously, we were safe lane as our duo lane. We had a mid Invoker, and we had an off lane that was Axe, and we had a roaming Winter Wyvern. That actually made some nice plays, but we ended up losing. Obviously, it was a 40-minute game. And just think about the game overall, it was mostly a problem of their Drow had more items than our PA, and their Shadow Fiend had some really nice plays. But the real big problem was Faceless Void made a bunch of really sick chronos and
And
like
they had a team to capitalize off it or capitalize on it
exactly.
pretty well. Drow
Yeah,
lineup, really good. Drow lineup with a Lich ulti, pretty
and a
fucking
Shadow
good.
Fiend.
Turns out, yeah, pretty good against a bunch of squishy people who need to not be inside of a chrono to shallow grave people.
Yeah, it was rough. The Faceless Void, so the way I thought of it was we were like slightly behind, and then the Faceless Void in the the early phase of mid game into like the mid game, and then even into the late game, like the guy was just really good. But he like was the rock that won them their fights, and like really like like it got them kills, but B, it got Silencer a bunch of int. It got a lot of gold to everybody. Lich had like a blink dagger, and he ended up with an Aghanims, and like they had a bunch of items. So it was a game that like very gradually went out of hand. And I think the thing I learned, I thought about most from it is really a testament to decision making from both teams.
Yeah,
Whereas and obviously like every game of Dota can kind of be boiled down to that to some extent. But we had a couple decisions that were really good, and like we were competitive in certain phases of the game, and like we took like 2 lanes of towers in the mid at one point. We had a bunch of good fights in a row, all based off the back of like nice smokes and other moves. But then we also had a bunch of decisions that went horribly awry, and the same for the other team. Was they had a few like decisions to smoke our jungle. Like at one point they smoked and they killed myself and Winter Wyvern with a chrono, and they had other nice smokes that really paid off. So it's less of like a mechanical like, oh, they were just better, or oh, they farmed better, and more of like they had very like nice decision making. Like every single time they had chrono up, they would get a kill, and every time they had Silencer ult up, they would take a team fight and they would win, and so on and so forth. So that's kind of
yeah.
my thoughts on the game before we get into
I'm
the
uh
actual combo.
I'm looking at the Dota buff plus for it, and it's fucking Shadow Fiend had 70 last hits at 10 minutes, and Invoker had 35. So that plus the whole fucking Axe versus a Drow. That's not a thing anyone wants, and then you add like one of the best zoning supports in the game, Silencer, like Frost Arrows plus Drought Aura plus Glaives on a fucking Axe. He's not going to get anything done. So you have a Lich aggro dual lane on a PA Dazzle lane, which went way better than it should have, honestly. I wasn't ever behind on last hits to the Void, despite like missing all of them because I'm just playing poorly. But yeah, we definitely were set up to lose that game, but there were some parts where we managed to make it winnable, only to prove that we did not deserve to win.
Yeah, I actually didn't realize how bad the Invoker was until I looked at the like post game, because yeah, like you said, having 35 last hits on an Invoker when you have a Winter Wyvern that's roaming into your lane to gank and help you out is not like acceptable at 10 minutes. That is
Yeah,
not a
he
thing
got like
that should
kills
happen.
too because of the
He
Wyvern.
got
Yeah,
his,
it's kind of rough.
his Midas was around 8, which is like an acceptable Midas timing. I don't remember if he went Brown Boots
It's at
first.
10, honestly. The timing
Oh,
for it is
okay.
10 minutes.
So even then I was 10 is definitely bad. 8 is like the benchmark for like that's an acceptable Midas timing. Like you want to have it a little faster, but 8 is like perfectly good.
Yeah.
If you have boots first. But regardless, we're not the Invoker player, so sometimes people are just bad. We
You
also
are.
this was yeah, I am the Invoker player. Not this one though.
Not this the
Trust
Invoker
me.
player, but a different
Yeah,
the Invoker player.
I am an Invoker player.
Okay.
Although not so much recently, but
On this
again,
show, you
so
are the Invoker player, just saying.
that's for sure. That's for sure. This game, and I know we kind of want to get to the actual combo, but we did queue for duo queue international matchmaking, and I don't know what's wrong with this, but the two of us were the only stack in this entire game. So it's 8 solo players and then R2 stack, and like I don't like that. Like obviously we lost, and like
Yeah, I mean
it's not consequential, but I could easily see this being abused by like 2 stacks. Like if
yeah, I said at the beginning of the episode, which is about an hour ago at this point, but yeah, I mean, if you're gonna queue his party, do it in fucking international. It's a good idea. You can get if it'll just transfer your like whatever rank that is to your solo, just like 5 stack it up in that, and then transfer over your fucking boosted ass crazy rating of you
oh no,
playing
you
as a
can't
5
do
stack
that.
against solos. So
It's so the way it works for anybody.
oh man, let's just not get into it. I think it's okay.
No, it's quick. It'll only take like one sentence. So the way it works is you have 10 games of calibration for solo, 10 games for party. At the end of the 90-day period, if you have played at least 40
Oh, you're
games,
right.
you can transfer your like international season party MMR that has at least 40 games into your regular party MMR.
Okay. Yeah,
And
I
the same
see.
thing with solo. So you can't like just like you can't just
Yeah, there's a
calibrate and be like,
solo
okay,
and a
this is
party here.
good. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, okay, fine, acceptable.
Either way, I mean, we did that to death. So let's talk about
Anyway,
the actual. Yeah. So like we said, our lane went pretty well, all things considered. Like we should have had a harder time than we did, right?
yeah. Lich faces Void aggro dual lane on like traditionally fairly weak laners is pretty rough. Should be anyway.
Okay, so I mean, we did like we kind of explained it exactly like our game plan in the previous part, but we did the like you had a fairly or early Blightstone,
Whitestone. Yeah.
and yeah, we would just like coordinate, and it's very simple. It's right. You daggered. That would do the initial slow. I would walk up. I would use my poison touch, which I got, I believe, at level 1. If not level 1,
I
level
think
2,
so.
because yeah. I would poison touch. You would blink in. You'd be punching him. I would shadow wave both of us, and it would do damage with that, which is physical as well, which helps again from the Blightstone. And we would kill this Lich fairly quickly every single time. And the thing
Yeah.
we definitely noted was Faceless Void. It was an issue. I forget if we said that in the first part. That's like one of our listed issues, but the Faceless Void.
Dragonite was what we were saying for the most part.
Yes. But the Faceless Void, I think you kind of summed it up best. I forget if it's in the VOD or whatever, in that like we had enough gas in our tank to kill one hero, the Lich, but we did not have enough to then kill the Lich and then move off and kill Faceless Void. So that was somewhat of an issue,
Yeah.
but like not
When we
hugely
were just dealing
consequential.
with the Faces Void, like the first two waves when Lich went to like sacrifice mid and then slowly walks back up. Oh god, you're gonna die.
No,
Anyway,
I'll live.
but yeah, like at the beginning it was fine, right? Because I just like tossed a dagger and then you were like solo zoning out Faceless Void and he missed like 2 or 3 waves entirely.
Yep.
And then it was just like once the Lich came and started sacrificing and frost blasting, we needed a little time to be like, oh wait, no, we can kill this Lich. It's fine. Like the first dagger I tossed, he lost like a fourth of his health. And I was like, oh shit, poison touch him. We're fine. Let's go.
Yeah.
So that was that.
Yeah, it's nice. Sorry, you
Go
can go.
on. No. Hey.
It's nice. I play a good deal of Faceless Void. And once you've like internalized his cooldowns, it makes the hero like so much easier to deal with. Like knowing
Yeah,
like, all
for
right,
sure.
he is level one jumpy thing, and you have 16 seconds in between, which now I'm gonna feel like an idiot if I'm wrong and it's like 20 seconds or 18 or whatever. But knowing you have 16 seconds in between like one leap and the next, that is like absolutely game changing. Like people, if you have any problem zoning Faceless Voids,
It's
play like a
24.
few games of Faceless Void. Is it
It's
24?
24, 18, 12. I had 16 in my head too. I think you may have done that to me. Yeah,
Did
24
it?
then 6. Yeah, 24 then 18.
Gosh, maybe it used to be 16.
I don't know, man. I think you better just drop it and hope people forget.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I won't forget. I'm publicly embarrassed. Either way, once you've internalized those kind of cooldowns, maybe I was thinking of 16 because that gives me like some leeway.
It's okay. We can
That's
it's fine.
regardless, just internalize cooldowns, and that applies to any hero, but especially Faceless Void, because I know, like, I've seen a lot of games where people are like, I can't zone Faceless. All he does is time walk all the damage off. Well, that doesn't matter. Like, realize that it has a long cooldown at level 1. Whether it's 16 or 24, it's still important to know, like, it's not like it's maxed when he could just do it constantly. So that's that. Anyway,
Yeah.
that was our
The
main.
I mean, the combo extended decently into just other ways that would have been a lot better if I was playing better Dotes at this time, like shallow graving me and like me just fucking fighting and accepting I'm gonna die, but make it glorious instead. Like I could have killed someone when I was getting dove, like even kind of still in the landing phase. Like I could have killed a drow if I just stayed in for my shallow grave,
Yeah,
and
that was
just
rough.
stuff like that. Like if I played PA a little bit more divey with the shallow grave, it would have worked out a lot better. So. It definitely has way more potential than we got to experiment with, especially being that I was behind. And shallow grave, when you're behind, is kind of just doesn't really save you that much. It's just you die five
You
seconds
die
later.
slowly.
Yeah. So like I think it was really good overall. It's just you got to play well. Turns out to win Dota, no matter how good your combo is.
Yeah, unfortunately, sometimes that is how it turns out. I definitely, like we said earlier, Dazzle is not a hero we've been seeing nearly as much as we used to. But Shallow Grave is one of those abilities that is, if you're not like acclimated, if you're not seeing it often, it's like you have to play differently around it. And if you're not used to that, it definitely is jarring. And like in that fight at top lane where you could have killed the Drow, it's one of those things where like you were playing it as though you were not shallow graved. Kind of
Yeah.
like people that are not used to Oracle, like people that don't like are not acclimated to how Oracle is going to ult you, and then you're going to do X, Y, and Z. They just like get
Yeah.
Oracle ulted and run. Like it's very important. And since Dazzle's not a hero we're seeing nearly as much as we used to, that's like just one of those things that like if we had run this combo more often, I'm sure you'd be more acclimated to just like, oh, I'm going to dive a bunch, dive a bunch, dive a bunch. Also, there are a few times where I
Yeah, for
missed,
sure.
which sucked because I
Yeah.
like I also like did not play well at all, but it is what it
Yeah.
is. The Shadow Fiend did an interesting build, and our mid player for our team, Hakuna Marana, is he likes Shadow Fiend and he tries to make it work for better or worse. I don't actually
It'll
know
work. I
internally.
like drafting it. It does well.
Do
We
you?
have a good win rate. We've only lost one game with it.
Okay, I'll take your word for it. We have a 6-man roster, and just so happens like I am often not there when we play Shadow Fiend, I guess. But this
Yeah.
Shadow Fiend did a build that would have been laughable in a previous patch, but nowadays is actually really legit. And he went Treads, Yules, Blink Dagger, Aghanim's BKB Refresher. I think that was the build up. It might have been BKB and then
Yeah.
Aghanim's. But either way, he did one of these like
I'm pretty sure
super
it's
alt
BKB then.
builds. Yeah. And
Yeah.
this was
Yeah.
very
Oh no, it
successful.
was It was BKB and then Ags. I'm glad we got
Yeah.
that sorted out.
And so this build, like I said, it would have been like if you did this like a patch ago, you would have been like laughed out of like the game. But it was actually really good this game, especially because the Drow Ranger supplemented him all the damage he lacked through her aura. It was a really interesting like combo. I really came to appreciate that. He had one like we had one like pretty like game deciding fight near Roche where the Shadow Fiend hit both his ults and like it was rough. So that's like a legit build, and I don't really like that it's a legit build, but it's pretty good. And I hate that I'm
Yeah.
saying legit. That word, it bothers me so much. But I'm
Shadow
sick. That's my
Fiend,
excuse.
many damage with ulti build.
Yeah, Shadow Man deal good
Many
damage.
damage. Very
So that's
many.
that. Do we have any more comments on the game before we hop into plugs?
I liked the Vanguard pretty well on PA. I think I may try that build again. Like Treads Vanguard, I think is pretty legit. Don't go Vanguard if you're not also going Battle Fury though. Like you don't have the mana regen if you're. Uh, People are kind of skipping Aki now on PA. This is kind of a
Yeah,
side
I've noticed
tangent,
that.
but yeah, I skipped Aquila on PA. There's like PA has so many important holes that you need to like fill in her kit. Don't
I'm
worry
glad you
about
tied
that
that one up.
sentence. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, but yeah, she has like a lot of gaps. I'll say in her kit. Like she needs survivability. She needs like a very impactful damage item. She needs a farming accelerator. She needs fucking. She needs disable as well. Like these. She needs these very important things. And a +2 armor or to creeps and +18 damage is not one of those things that she needs. It's nice, but like the other things, she needs them so desperately that it's just like getting a really efficient item just kind of isn't worth it a lot of the time and like to delay these things. Like if any of my items came like even 500 gold slower, like that game would have been so much harder.
Yeah,
It
it
doesn't
definitely.
change anything. Like PA can't engage in like she throws daggers until she gets really tanky and then she goes in. And like the Aquila is not the difference between throwing daggers only and going in. It's never going to be the difference. So don't get items if they're not going to change how the hero plays at all.
Yeah, it's interesting you kind of bring that point up in that like she has different slots where it's like, all right, I need an item that does X, I need an item that does Y, and I need an item that does Z. And you see with a lot of different builds, kind of, at least the way I think of different PA builds is they facilitate different needs at different phases, right? So you have certain builds that like, you fill your survivability need by buying an early Vanguard, and then you have other builds that facilitate your farming need with an early Battle Fury, and then you have other builds that facilitate your fighting need with early stat items, whatever. So
Yeah.
that's an interesting way to think about it. And yeah, in this game as Dazzle, I guess just to go through my items real quick, I went Glimmer Cape. That was kind of my like big item that I actually got a decent timing, and that helped out a lot. Obviously, didn't help out enough, but Glimmer Cape is a really good item, and it's cheaper now than it used to be.
Yeah.
And obviously, it's been
Especially
nerfed
against
like
Void.
yeah, especially against Void. It's been nerfed so many times, and like the big deal is not like, oh, like invisibility is nice, obviously, but the important thing is they're going to be taking significantly less magic damage. And taking 45% less magic damage is a huge deal. And like using that on our carry or on our invoker or on our axe, whatever, it lets them do things. And obviously like everybody internally, like when you say that, like obviously yes, everybody knows like magic resistance is a good thing, but in a game like this it helps a lot, and it's an item that I see a lot of people pass over now because they're like, oh, I need Aether Lens, oh, I need Blink Dagger, Force Staff, etc. Like getting a Glimmer Cape makes the world of difference in a lot of fights and a lot of games just in general. So
Yeah.
definitely a standout item for me that game, and that's something I would definitely take away. I've been building it more often on supports than I used to. So yep, that's it. All right.
All
So
right.
if you want to watch the game that we played today, you can find it on our YouTube channel .ptv1. That's a numerical one. If you want to watch us stream, primarily Roland, myself, as well as the in-houses on Saturday evenings at 8 EDT. You can find all those on twitch.tv/.ptv. If you give it a follow, you'll know whenever you want. Our website is defenseofthepatients.com, and on there you can find an Amazon banner where you can order stuff that you're going to order regularly. You don't pay any extra money. You just, give us some, which is nice. We also have Twitter. I am at Ursinity. Proud is at Proud Dota, and at .p_show is the overall show Twitter for anything and everything .p. We have an email, defenseofthepatients@gmail.com. That's where you can contact us. Same thing with the Twitter. Patreon.com/defenseofthepatients is another avenue where, not only can you contact us, but if you appreciate the show, throw us a couple bucks a month, whatever you want to do. We appreciate it. And we haven't been talking about it much recently, but we are very happy to have more or less completed the GoFundMe that we did for Captain Silverfox. He is now in school at Code Core, which is very exciting, and we won't harp on it too much, but it's very very happy time for .p. We are very happy to have raised the amount that we did, and great success, etc. So you don't have to hear us plug that anymore. Maybe we'll have 12-hour streams for some other reason soon. But yeah, so that's that.
We did it.
Yay.
Yay.
All right. So of course, this has been Theory Crafting Thursday, and just remember, if you try PA and Dazzle, it's our theory, but it's probably the fault of I don't know, your mid player or something. Definitely not ours.
Yeah, not me.